Paul Brownstein's been a lawyer since 1967. His first 3 years out of law school, he did not practice law. He spent his time as a business person working in a large corporation, using what he learned in law school to help the corporate members manage their business. That was my original plan when I got out of law school, was not to practice law. After 3 years of doing that, I realized that I might be more useful and more effective if I took my legal background and did that directly for many people. And I therefore went and took the bar. In 1970, I was admitted. And that was in Pennsylvania. I'm admitted in all the courts in Pennsylvania, including the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. And I give advice in a general practice nature to many different kinds of clients. My first job out of law school as a lawyer was for a corporation in Philadelphia where I was house counsel. The way they operated in those days, you were house counsel, you did two different kinds of practices for the firm. You were a general attorney for a division of the firm, or two or three divisions. And I'm going to make them up. You might be an attorney for the boiler making part of the company, and anybody that was in that part of the company that needed legal advice generally, they would come to see you. And you might be also the general attorney for the shoemaking part of the company. I never had those issues, in fact, but so be it. And so you were a general lawyer. The other part of your job was to be a specialist for the whole company. And my specialties were equal employment, or I should say employment law, administrative matters, state and federal administration, and dealing with administrative agencies, workers' compensation, all the kinds of things companies get involved with that are particularities. I did those for the whole company. So on any particular day, I might get a phone call from a general lawyer saying, I need to know about how I can satisfy something going on in our business. And then I might get a call from a totally different division that I hardly don't have much to do with, says, hey, well, we have a person who lost their job, they claim it's discrimination. That's how I got my practice, and I did that for a number of years. And then one day, I got it to work for a job for a law office in New York. And there I continued particularly with my specialties: employment law, labor law, equal employment, affirmative action issues for the management side. I wasn't representing third parties who were suing companies. I was representing companies who were dealing with federal regulations of that sort. I would help companies comply with federal employment standards, wage and hour division, employment law, things of that sort for large, very large companies. The firm had very, very few companies that were little companies. After a number of years, I got kind of tired of the way big firm practice works. You get involved in dealing with people in a very long-term project with a number of other lawyers. Years can go by sometimes, and it never seems to end. And you go do what you have to do, and then you come right back again. It's not a glamour trip. And you do work constantly. And that year I left, I remember I had one day off the entire year, and that day they called me and said, you have to come back in. And I didn't need it. Coincidentally, that time I was involved in a long-distance courtship with a woman who later became my wife. And I called her on the phone one day and said, I'm giving all this up, and we want to get married. You know, I called her up, I made an arrangement to let's get married, and then I left New York and came back to Bucks County, Pennsylvania, where I'm from. Reestablished myself as a general practitioner. And to this day, the largest bulk of my practice is in fact matrimonial, family law, custody, support, divorce, all the things that people who get married or people who have children between them get involved with. And that's a large part of my practice. I also do general practice type things. I write wills and those kind of documents, trusts. I do small scale criminal things like maybe retail theft, DUI, maybe an assault, but not big criminal stuff. That's for specialists. I don't do any personal injury work at all. I have one colleague, no, I take it back. I have a couple of colleagues that I routinely refer personal injury cases to, that I've known them and have confidence in them. I don't shop it around. I don't do workers' compensation. Those kinds of things, personal injury, workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, which I can do. If you don't do it all the time, it's something you shouldn't do at all because it's a full-time occupation, and that's especially true for another area of the law I don't do at all, which is immigration. Which strikes me as a particularly frustrating kind of business in these times for lawyers because the government has all the power. In reality, there's not often a happy outcome with immigration work. And so I tend not to do that for that reason. But that's pretty much how I got to where I am and what I do. It's not bad for a person that's a solo now. I haven't always been a solo, but I like that. There are people who are concerned that if I get a solo practitioner, maybe there won't be enough staff to handle my particular kind of matter. My way of evaluating cases is this something that a solo person can do? Or do I have time to do it? If I don't think I have time to do it, or it's not one that a solo should do, I will turn the case away and refer it to somebody else that I may know who's in a position to handle it. When it really matters, the choice is simple.